Alright, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another small 2020 elections update. I'm going to talk a little bit about the gubernatorial elections. And before I get too far into this, the history thing on Friday seemed to go over extremely well. So I am likely going to continue doing that particular series, as well as maybe not resurrect a series that I did way back in the day, but kind of talk about certain maybe historical figures that I find particularly interesting and that I don't think people really know too much about. And I've got a really good one for all you American history buffs out there. This is someone whom I doubt most American history buffs, like even in-depth history buffs, don't know too much about. And I'm going to be honest, I love history, and I didn't know about this guy until a few months ago. Okay, and I like reading into all the weird and wacky history that happens. Okay, trust me. I've got a good one lined up. Anyway, so let's talk about the gubernatorial elections. I probably shouldn't have this as safe, but I'm too lazy to do the gradient right now. And as always, before I get too far, likes, comments, subscriptions, they really do help, and I greatly appreciate them. We did cross 400 not too long ago, and that's awesome. Not too far to go to get to 1,000. I mean, it is 600, but, who's counting? But no, Montana, of course, is considered somewhat up in the air, and it could go either way. In presidential election years, split ticket voting is a little bit less common, but gubernatorial races are much less partisan, as evidenced by Vermont and New Hampshire, which both states are, well, one state is in the very, very safe blue category, and yet Phil Scott is extremely likely to win re-election, and in New Hampshire, the state is probably leans blue at the presidential level, but Sununu is extremely popular and is probably going to keep his seat there. Delaware, don't really see that flipping. Indiana, don't see that flipping. Missouri, definitely not. Utah, nope. West Virginia, Jim Justice is doing all right in terms of popularity, and of course the partisan tilt of the state is nothing to sneeze at. North Dakota, again, I don't really see that seat flipping. And North Carolina is certainly a state that is going to be the most interesting one, because you have, with both Tillis and I believe the other senator, Richard Burr. With both North Carolina senators, you have some scandals going on. One of them is insider trading. I think the other is also insider trading or some computer security thing. And Roy Cooper is fairly popular down in North Carolina. And Forrest, I think the guy's name is Forrest. He's not polling very well. I mean, even in nonpartisan polls, he's not really within competition. So Roy Cooper's probably going to be getting another term down there in North Carolina and Tar Heel State. And like I said, the Senate race, Tillis is going to be facing an unusually strong challenge, partially because of his scandal. He's almost certainly going to run behind President Trump. And I mean, at this point, I should probably bring up the Senate map, because, that is something to talk a little bit about. Cornyn's not under any real threat. None of those states are really anything interesting. I'll talk about Montana. Oregon, not really competitive. I don't see Alaska as being particularly competitive. Same with Illinois. Virginia, Warner's probably going to win. I highly doubt that the state flips there, despite what the Biden campaign, apparently some of his staffers released what their strategy was, and they were extremely concerned about Virginia at the presidential level, which means they're concerned about it at the Senate level. I don't think they need to be too concerned in either situation. But, Shaheen's fairly popular, but she's probably... Shaheen's fairly popular, and state may be competitive, but... and I'm fairly confident she's going to do well. And get rid of that sidebar. Suzanne Collins, I think she will just very narrowly hold on to the state, but it's going to be very narrow. Cory Gardner, I don't think he can really win that race. In New Mexico, it's an open seat, so it may be a little bit more competitive than it would in a normal year. All these deep south states. Kentucky, anybody who tells you the race is competitive is an idiot. Not really, but anybody who says that that race is competitive is lying to themselves. West Virginia, Moore Capito, she's pretty popular. Tennessee, that's not up for grabs. Arkansas and Louisiana, neither. Lindsey Graham is pretty safe. Joni Ernst she's comfortable. She's in a comfortable position. Georgia has a double-barrel election. One of those, the special election, which I'll denote with this one. It's a little bit more competitive than than the normal election, but because Doug Collins is almost certainly going to win the primary, or at least advance to the final two against... I'm not really sure which of the Democrats, probably Lieberman, is going to wind up advancing, but it's going to be Doug Collins and a Democrat, and Collins isn't going to lose that seat. Laufer's not going to... She's going to get primary, basically, and Collins is not Laufer. He doesn't have a scandal hanging over his head, so... it's just the way Georgia votes. And, of course, I want to say it's Purdue is the normal seat that's the actual seat that's normally up this year, and that Isaacson is the one that's retiring. I could have it backwards. I get them confused a lot for some reason. Alabama, considering Roy Moore isn't going to win the primary, it's either going to be Tuberville, who is a coach of Auburn, and out of the two Republicans, because he coached Auburn, I'm hoping that Jeff Sessions wins that primary. No, I'm not biased in any way. Anyway, yeah, I really don't see a realistic path for Doug Jones to keep that seat if Roy Moore doesn't win the primary. If Roy Moore wins the primary, yeah, I wouldn't put it past him to win that seat, to win re-election. But if it's Sessions or Tuberville, Alabama is going to get rid of Doug Jones. Now we move on to the actually interesting seat races this year. Arizona, where McSally is doing a very poor job of trying to ride Trump's coattails. Of course, Arizona is a bad state to be trying to do that, for reasons we talked about in the Arizona swing state analysis. And Mark Kelly is polling very, very well, though, again, I don't think Arizonans are, swing vote Arizonans or split ticket Arizonans are thinking about it the way they probably should, or at least tactically speaking, because Sinema is actually a fairly moderate Democrat, all things considered. She's among she's one of the I think she's top five in how often for Democrats and how often she votes for votes with the president on legislation and such. Of course, other suspects include on that list are Joe Manchin. But everybody else has a steep drop off after that point. But yeah, if McSally doesn't reevaluate her campaign, I would give a very slight edge to Mark Kelly in that seat. North Carolina is a very, very interesting race this year, again, because of. Oh, sorry about the phone. How I'm expecting something important, so I may have to. But anyway, I'm expecting. I'm trying to remember which of the two senators. It's Tillis, yeah. Tom Tillis is in a very tough re-election bid, and again, it's going to depend on how much he's able to successfully ride Trump's coattails, but also downplay the insider trading thing. And I don't see it working. I expect there to be some split ticket voting. So I'm giving a tilt to Tillis in North Carolina. Minnesota, it's becoming a more competitive state, but Tina Smith is probably going to win re-election. She does have incumbency advantage. I'm only tilting Michigan to Gary Peters because John James is, number one, a very strong candidate. Number two, he has far outraised Gary Peters. The Republicans are probably going to dump a lot of money into the state at both the presidential level and the Senate level. And the Republicans have a cash on hand and fundraising advantage on the Democrats right now. And it seems they have a lot more momentum because their Democratic governor is, there's no other word to describe it, she is insane. And I highly doubt she wins re-election, regardless of who is president. That's how crazy she has been with this whole quarantine lockdown thing. And it's absolutely crazy that she had to basically admit and thank well-armed civilians for making her feel safe from other extremely well-armed civilians. Basically saying that more people with guns de-escalated a situation. It's absolutely hilarious to watch that, but it's ridiculously stupid, some of the restrictions she's imposed on the state over this quarantine. And I don't think she survives. And it really could put the state in jeopardy at both the Senate level and the presidential level, if it wasn't already in that category. State level politics does matter in the U.S. A lot of people say, oh, it really doesn't, it can't shift things, but it can. It really can. If an event is massive enough, it can. And this, I think, a global pandemic and shutdown orders and lockdown orders and protests over those, yeah, they matter. Montana, for the Senate, again, I am going partisanship, but it's only a lean because Bullock is very popular in the state. He has a similar effect to John Tester, though Tester only narrowly, and when I say narrowly, I'm talking it was within 3%, if I remember correctly. He only narrowly held his seat in a year that was extremely favorable to him. This is a presidential election year, so it's an uphill battle in the Senate for for Democrats anyway in Montana. And I just don't really see. I do see a path to victory, but it's going to require Trump underperforming slightly nationally, and Joe Biden to overperform, which is entirely possible. I don't think so. I think the opposite is more likely, where Trump overperforms and Biden underperforms, especially considering Biden has an extremely hard time stringing his sentences together. But yeah. So right now I'm looking at a very small Senate majority for Republicans, and that actually puts the Senate in danger of flipping in 2022. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See y'all next time. Take it easy. Have a nice day. Bye bye.